to traditional Chinese brush painting landscape class. I'm Henry Lee. We are at Joslyn Center in Alhambra, Southern California, with some local students, and I also live broadcast on YouTube for those who are watching worldwide. We appreciate your participation. We still cannot do live Zoom because we try to be more in person here. But it's different, you know, the energy is different. So I got a lot of energy from the live participants. As you recall, last class we have a very kind of quick, I think we got network issues, huh? Maybe we got. So we try to we have a survey class last time. So this time I try to be more go slower, so you can follow me to paint. So I try to maybe paint half of the time and half of the time that you practice, because I realize you'll have more problem at home. I have to email you back and forth. So we try to go slow this time. All right. So for example, if we do this painting, we cannot finish in one class. Don't expect that, because this kind of work, if you have read my article on this, it takes months so it takes more time to conceptualize, to think, to ponder than you paint. You have to, so this process is very slow and time consuming. But it's like, you know, like the meditation on paper, like Gongbi detailed painting kind of. It's very controlled if you follow the steps. So the success ratio is much higher than freestyle. You might paint, you know, hundreds freestyle in 5 minutes each, but the success ratio is much lower than this kind of painting. So speaking of the techniques of traditional Chinese painting, we can talk about brush and ink use. We call it 笔墨. Sorry, I'm doing take off. It's still winter, it feels like, although it's spring, but it's good. We're going to do a snowy landscape. The process is the second important. The procedure doing steps, okay. So you have to learn this by copy the masters. The strokes, number one, and the second is the steps it takes. And number three, I think, is the composition, because this kind of painting is not exist in real world. But it takes generation or 1,000 years in Chinese culture through many artists in a lineage called Orthodox school. They followed the masters generation after generation to develop this kind of skill. I mean, this kind of composition and skill. So it's called Orthodox school. Orthodox school is sponsored by the Qing Dynasty versus their court painters to paint for the emperor. And there are also other artists in the society, more individualist, we call it. Okay, but later, actually, they are not really against each other. They could be friends. They can collaborate on same painting. We have seen that. Like Shi Tao is a very famous individualist, but he also tried to get into the court. He went to Beijing and paint for a few months interacted with the court painters, and and was very proud of that treatment. Okay. But style-wise, this is a different, two different schools of painting. the Orthodox school follows the certain rules. Yeah. So and they become very specific on or become very what we call it like a modernist. They no longer go to nature to paint. Mm-hmm. They paint based on the second nature. Okay, so from the past masters painting. So they have access to all the imperial collection, the Palace Museum collection, of the masters. So they got inspiration, the composition, the techniques from the past masters. And it has advantages and disadvantages. So they become more formalist, right? Concentrate on the form, rather than the content. The realistic, like realism. We studied the revolutionary realism, or the socialist realism. They try to answer the question: can this art form, this traditional brush and the ink technique, paint everything, everyday life in our everyday life to reflect the so-called the laborers or the proletarian class, or the today's world, the today's life. So the artists in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they tried to answer that question by doing live sketch movement. In the live sketch movement, they go to the countryside, the manufacturer to paint smoking chimneys, that kind of thing, or steamers in the boat, in the river, that kind. So that's become part of like a propaganda, or like the bridge painting I did, I showed you. That's a revolution against this kind of tradition. So this art form was not allowed to continue or to show in the public during the Cultural Revolution. I was totally ignorant, know nothing about this until I got, after the Cultural Revolution, we started to rebuild the national heritage, what do we call it? So the everything old coming back. At that wave, I happened to know this lady. I think you didn't see the original, right? I showed them the last time, but I brought it back again. I better display it. It's my treasure. The only original painting I have, actually the only painting I have from my ex-wife. So we met in the college, and at first she said she wanted me to teach her, how to paint in Fuguoshi style, kind of contemporary style. But after I saw her painting, I felt so embarrassed. So I decided we learn each other. So I introduced my teacher of mine. We went to study mustard seeds garden painting of manual together. So we learned together this kind of tradition but still I think this painting before my influence is much more authentic, because I tried to teach how to wet wash, but she never did do that. There's no wet wash except the sky and the river. It's all kind of hatching. Yeah. Very dry brush stroke, and she introduced me to this very important concept I'm talking about in the title of the article and the header of this lecture. Is the concept of Mao. Maybe those you speak Chinese can help me how to translate. I try to do it the best I can. The artificial intelligence helper says don't translate it. It's too complicated. So I forced ChatGPT to use the word luxuriant and then try to summarize that. If I talk about Mao, Google translator will say Maoist style landscape. That's because Mao is not a last name. It's adjective describe hair. So like if you don't have hair, it's no Mao. No. Mao is like not like a lot of hair, but it's like old people's hair. So there's two big characters written on one of his Wang Yuanqi's painting. He's an Orthodox school master. It says Cang Run. I try also to use that word to describe the concept of Mao. Cang means old, aged. Run means moisture or juicy. But it's a contrast of dry and wet kind of. It's a contrast of old and young, dry and wet. It's a balance of different elements, dry and wet, old and young, wet and young. So basically, the approach is to achieve that kind of feel. So it will correct many of your common I won't say error or problem, but the most when I start painting with this lady, I use a lot of water to wash. That's too much. It makes the painting less Mao, less luxuriant. So you want to keep it dry, but not to the extent of too dry. So she used her lips to adjust the moisture in the brush, the thirsty brush. But so when I paint with her lips are black. Yeah, because we use grinding. Have you ever tested that? It's not too bad. It's a little cooler, kind of mint. Not mint. It's some kind of like a cool feel. Yeah, and a lot of flavor actually. But nowadays we're not using that ink that kind of ink anymore. So we better. Alternatively, I think you might use a little bit like a peach sap glue in the water if you want to control the bleeding, or the shape, to keep the shape. You don't have to, But that's an old tradition. I believe that the old master always do that, because that's a secret. I didn't mention that in the article, just to add on that. And in some historical documents, the witness described the process of this kind of painting of this stuff. So I also saw her doing this. So usually you start with a charcoal sketch. I don't have time to do that, so I just put it on top of. They don't have this kind of copy, right? So they have to. You can put it on top of the original and do the tracing. Just if you have the original in hand. So they usually, you can also copy in front of you. And so the first thing you do is to use charcoal to outline the heights of the mountain, to mark the dragon vein. Dragon vein is another concept developed by Wang Yuanqi, the court Orthodox school leader. He discovered this in the traditional landscape, and I also talked about the Y-shaped kind of or qiu in Chinese, the heel, the three-dimension. You can see all that kind of formation. The three, it's kind of like a Y on top of. You understand what I talked about in the first class? This character. And this is the first lesson we learned together from our landscape teacher. And Wang Yuanqi actually was the Yeah, he also talked about the stone nose. Stone nose. That's kind of yeah. That's where you start usually with the mountain formations. But if you have trees in the foreground, that's where you start. The first is the cypress tree, I think. But provided that you have the whole plan laid out before you do that. I think I better leave it loose so I can lift it to see behind. So I'm gonna paint directly. So I will use a stiff brush. Here she will use a very small, not too big like that, even smaller, and a dry, thirsty brush, stiff brush. Yeah, and the best is the kind of bold, old brush head, not too sharp. And you start with very light ink. Let's see. I need a palette, sorry. I think I didn't bring that. Anyway, let me just use a piece of. I just want to see the shade of the. Yeah, this is about it. So this is the how light it is. Yeah, almost just like clean water. So this is you start and you accumulate many layers, maybe 10 layers or 9. So I just draw some division lines. This foreground is pretty light. So let me just do this part. So this is a very crucial part. So we start from the left lower right corner and then go up and then kind of shift like that. And then find the corner of the rock where it change plans. They're usually a little squarish than round. So don't do it like all curves. It's between round and the square, right? So this whole mountain rock, I say, it's like a backdrop of it's left blank to show this silhouette of this cypress tree. So to do this tree, we need to do the trunk first. Remember how to do that? You start from where it's split, maybe on the left side, and the some in the front. You know? And this tree has a little bit root. This is the main tree, and there's some other trees behind. This one is also in the front, later. So this one, my brush is a little bit too wet. This is semi-sized. It's still very bleeding. So this time you can add a little liquid from your mouth to control that, or you can add a little peach sap glue to control it. Or you can just dry the brush just to exhaust the heel of the brush. That's very important. Yeah. Don't have anything in the heel. Okay, just, and I can see the original. Maybe that's clear. I'm glad I brought that, so I can just copy. More like looking at the real scene instead of the shadow of it. And even the dark part, you can start from light, then reinstate it. So the last step is the darkest. This is a different approach than Fu Baoshi or other contemporaries. They start from maybe dark, then wash. Okay. I just roughly do the gesture of that, and then this tree has the upward, like a horn or stacked horn tree, and then there's another tree behind. It's what do you call it? The crab, yeah. We learned last time. Good. So I'm going to do this. Maybe I would not just copy behind. I just use this as a like a placement, and I look at that. I just paint directly. Okay. So this branch is going up diagonally. A lot of detail, right? It's very fine kind of line. Okay, the double line goes up to here. Remember how we do the division? Okay. So this trunk, it should be very dry. Not as heavy as the Qing Dynasty style. We learned like Ma Yuan, very thick outline. I think he has two sources of inspiration in terms of style. One is Wang Wang. I think I saw your copy at your studio. Wang Wang, the Dwellings of Fuchun River. What's that the title? Yeah, correct. Yeah, and then that's his number one source. The other is Nizan. Nizan, yeah. If you don't know that, we'll study Wang Wang next time. Okay, so the plan of the tree is indicated with a different plan with the root. Right? This one goes behind the left hand. I don't see the division. Okay, I see that. This is the V-shaped division. Okay, and that's. This one goes behind and goes up here. Okay. This is like a willow tree, I think. I just paint my impression. I should have my glasses on. It's already larger than the original. You still cannot see. This is 13 by 18. The original is maybe 19. Yeah. Okay. Now I can see much better with my reading glasses. I can understand what Diane experienced before and after surgery right now with my glasses and without glasses. So you do need your glass to paint this kind of meticulous style. Okay, the tree also has this division, I think, right here. Okay, I will identify all the roots. So they determine the front and back relationship. This one has a little root. I don't like the claw shape. I just reduce that into a little bit simple shape. Okay. So it goes behind. goes up here. It's pretty straight. Okay, good. All the way up here. All right, and then this one. So there are 5 trees together. It's a medium size. I don't know if it's a branch. I think it's another tree here. Goes up there, so it becomes thinner too. And this is the. Let me outline also the plan a little bit. And my ink is pretty light. If there's gradation, so this is about 1 to 2 maybe. If this is like 8 or 9, this is 1 to 2. So I'm using very light ink to try to draw a sketch of this. Try to see the this character, whatever you call it. You can call it a K or a Y or that's the secret behind all the division or formation of the rocks and this is pretty dry, but very firm. Not so you can go slow with dry brush. That's what. And this is a hemp texture. You remember that we learned from the first class last term. This is the hemp texture. It's from Wang Yuanqi's influence. And this doesn't depict anything. It's like calligraphy. You know, Wang Yuanqi's painting treats this kind of texture like a calligraphy. And there are some triangular shapes. That's again, it's between round and curve. I mean squarish, angular and the curve. That's what I try to describe. So when I do this kind of what they call scratching or scampering, it's like a shaping or shading, if you like. But you have to have some structural lines first before you do the texture or shaping. Okay, here is another sketch one here. This is the boundary of this bank. It's kind of difficult to do it vertically. Those are entangled rope of a hemp is the description of this technique. It's known as the hemp or parallel. Actually, they're not really parallel. You can see there's some more loosening, some still twisted. I mean, bounded together like a rope, and untangled rope of hemp. That's the. And you can go from bottom up sometimes. Usually it goes from top down, like that. So it's not like it's one by one string at a time. And there are different blocks, so not even. Indicate the in and outs, the unevenness of the surface of the rock. It takes patience. I touched accidentally. Just leave it. So this is just the beginning of the long, painstaking or enjoyable journey, you might say. Okay, and then try to identify all the little divisions. Yeah, let's just concentrate on trees today, I think. Okay. And there are houses here also. Some trees in front of the house. You can go first. This is another tree here. Oh, there's a shortcut. I try to see it in squinting eyes or in the eyes of the AI software, and I kind of stylized this with Cézanne's painting. You can see the what do we call feathery effect? I call it feathery effect. It's also a good translation of the word Mao, because that's the first option ChatGPT provided, is feathering, feathering. But yeah, this talks about the coarse line, or not smooth lines, yeah, or edges, like a Cézanne's painting. So we can use that as some inspiration. So here's a tree in front of that house. I try to go too fast with dark. That's my habit. But you can always do the light first, and then you can add. After the light dries, you can highlight it. This is called accumulative method. It's very time-consuming method, but that's the profession. So it's a professional. It's a professional style of the literati school or amateur school. So it become more kind of professional. I just draw this house. You better make the line more leveled, I think. But I like it a little bit kind of lean, maybe give it a little modern twist. It doesn't really, because this is done in the eye of maybe 16 or 17, of age. There's a little bit of naivety still, like a child painting, not as old as with shaking hand, that kind of personality. Yeah. But early on, because she had got this concept of Mao at the first, if you can say, she tried to pursue or to depict that old or vintage look, Yeah, you can even see the little curtain. Yeah. Okay. division. Okay, I identified this part as another Q or Y division. So I want that whenever I discover this, I'm so happy because I know where to put my darks to kind of the hollow part, yeah. To make the other pop, yeah. So that's another thing. You can think this way: all the darks is to foil out the pop, to make it pop. So you don't put on the light part, only on top of the top contour, right? Yeah, like you will not put dark under the contour. Yeah. So identify the contour is number one important thing. There are a lot of bushes. We don't worry about that. Just do the slopes first. Okay, here's another small division here. And some contour is done with the vegetation. But still, you can have light ink as your as a template before you do the texture. Before you plant those bushes, you can have a little bit light ink for the design, the line. But you don't do the line. The line is made with those little trees or bushes along the line. And some squarish rocks on the river bank here. I think she didn't shade the side plan. Usually, maybe she. Yeah, that's like we did last time with the snowy, icy landscape. There's, I think that's because generally speaking, this river bank is darker than lighter than the river. Not icy. It's probably early spring or just the beginning of late autumn, maybe. Okay, so this is a platform. Usually it's leveled platform. So the best painting, as I described it before, is it's 3 cans or 4 cans. Like you can tour, you can view, you can live, recite, or what is that? 3 cans, right? 4 cans. I forgot. You can travel. So those viewpoints are very, and then you can see this kind of trail along the river. There's some in and out. I'm not sure if these are construction material or just doesn't matter. I just copy. But I think the ancient master must know that if this is the woody kind of, it could be there should be some like dead logs or something like that. Along the river side. Okay, and then there's it's interesting that she kept some openness. It become like I like that void. So this mount is not finished. Okay, so this is in the distance, some rocks in the river, and you do it always like this. Remember that order? Like that. Okay. And I just start everywhere because we have the painting already being designed, right? So we don't have to worry about the composition. Because at this point we still need to identify the plans before we go texture. Okay, so I would, with my dry brush light ink, I think I just do this area. Okay, yeah, this interesting treatment. I like that. So some trees form the top contour without the contour line. Interesting treatment. So I just mark those the V, the bottom of the V. Yeah. Okay. This. So let's take a watercolor approach and make it simple to see. So Cézanne will just do very few corners and let the void be filled by the viewer. That's very smart. And I see this is still like a tip concealed stroke. Even this far, I think it's still, you can see the stroke. It's not just like a surface. It's still lines. It's very linear. I mean, almost like a waterfall kind of stroke. It's gradually lifting the pressure. So even I don't wash, you can feel the mist and fog or haze in the bottom of this line. Right? So it's a little bit heavier to start with, and then just to get loose and drier, go faster. So this could be where we'll see some lips. So this is called 苍润, dry but not to the point become coarse, or drafty. So it's still very organized. And you can see the dimension. I think some in the principle of what we call the. So this is generally a Chinese approach to the three dimension. So if you try to identify this, will help. And here are some in and outs, short and long, and just to. This is almost like, it could be just a night thing without the snow. I'm not really sure because there's no title, no description. Usually when we have the dark sky against the white mountain, it feels like snow. Okay? It could be night or moonlit landscape. I'm not sure about the theme. Because I see a lot of vegetation on top of this here. Usually it could be more like this. So we can make it more into the snow. It's very unique. I never see this approach before, that you use a lot of like a short hair to form the contour. I don't remember. So this is what we call the luxuriant style, I think. A Mao. Mao means hairy here. Yeah. So if I just do like scratching, it won't create. But you can start with this, and then you add dark, the more the short bars. I see. To fill in that. And here we have some overlapping planes. That goes behind, it's in the front. Yeah, I think if you look at this treatment, this rendition, it gives you more contrast of sparse and dense. But you can see large and small here. That has to do with sparse and dense. Large and small shapes there. And here, a lot of we have a special technique for, technical term for this little rounded rocks called allen heads, or allen chunks, allen blocks. 凡头, 凡 means allen, 头 means little chunks or pieces. Yeah. 凡头. I think if you check the Mustard Seeds Garden manual, this term will pop. And you see a lot of them in Qing Dynasty. Start with the Song Dynasty, 居然 and Dongyuan, the southern style, southern landscape, Zen style. Okay. Let me just save this large white, and this large white, and some cliff here. I just use my brush as a pencil for now, just to draw the sketch. Very dry. Yeah, almost no ink. And it's time just add a little water. I use ink cake. So maybe 3 drops of ink will take what it takes for the whole painting. If you use bottled ink. And there's some cliff. I see more kind of like 斧皮, 小斧皮 or X cut kind of stroke. I think it should go this way a little bit, maybe the cut along the. And you can use the brush like this to get the rough strokes going, like plowing. And try to look at the whole pattern. Like here, you can see 3 rows of rock, and but so basically you do 1 in the bottom, and then go and try to identify this division line. And you see a lot of them, and some of them are soft, some are more distinctive. here is another kind of soft area. If you look at these two shapes, almost merge just a little bit. And this dark area there. Let's do this dimension on this side. The tree, you need to save enough space to let it stand out. Use dry brush. And here's some, maybe should be a little bit overlapping, I'm not sure, but just keep the ink very light for now. You should have the dimension first, then do the shaping, I think. So your shaping goes to the right place. Not on both sides of the contour, but above the contour usually, to let it pop the inner contour here. And then this lower contour, so that top part. I started too much blurry stroke. I better let it dry before we do some definitive lines. But because I have trees in the front, so that kind of serve as a ambiguous function to also identify, to help kind of create line in the front. So if you look at from distance, those tree lines almost like the texture on the rock also. So that's the best part I like. I'll just leave it ambiguous. They don't define the rock, so yeah, and then you use trees to add to the in the front. So the tree will stay in the front. If you put too much line there, the tree won't. Maybe she did the tree. She did the rocks after the tree. So, okay. Let's work on the trees, I think. So this tree, maybe we only have time to do this tree today. This will take one lesson. This tree has the dots known as the pot pepper, Sichuan pepper. You know Sichuan pepper, the little round pepper dots. Mm-hmm. Okay. The principle to do that is not to overlap between each layer. You can overlap between layers, but when you do one layer, don't overlap. Just keep them separated. You do it like this. You can do in a pattern of 5 or 3, like this. I try to. I can do it a little bigger, so you can see. Maybe maybe 5 or maybe. Actually, it could be like a flower pattern, like a plum blossom. So it should be all the same. So this is too big. Don't connect two. It will become a big dark block. So try to separate them. So this is good. This one is good. Yeah, you see that. Leave a little space, and after it dries, you can add darker ones, and eventually become very solid. Okay, so we can start from light. Yeah. After you draw the tree, okay, yeah, we can squeeze out the branches first, and then we can, if needed, we can use dark ink. Just to this is called a mask dots brush. You can get this. I designed this brush for this purpose. It's made for this. Yeah, it's a very sharp and very blunt. So you can make this kind of dots easily, effortlessly. I'm sorry. I think it should stay more in the with the trunk. So we can just do the trunk first. If you have a gradation on the brush, like you start a little bit darker, you can. I'm not sure if it's darker in the bottom, but you can follow a sequence, so it will gradate from dark to light according to your design. So there are in and outs. Generally, it's like it's a triangular shape. Right? So I want to capture this outer shape first, so I don't lose that. Try not to overlap first, and then you can add more layers to. Okay, so this one. And make sure you have those dead branches sticking out to make the painting feels aged, old, not too, okay, not too. Look, these trees are just like those around this town, outside. It's much older than the city, right? Yeah. I love this old towns. You can see trees like that everywhere. I live in Royal Heights, near the Royal Park. We have big giant trees next to us. Yeah, that's why I like the park view. Yeah, they call it, right? And you can still add branches if needed. So, or you can, dot along one side of the imaginative branch. I can see some twisted kind of texture and very dry brush, flying white kind of texture there. So this is definitely, I know this tree, if you have done enough Chinese painting, they always do this tree. It's like a cypress, not the pine with needles. This is a cypress tree. They use dots. There should be another horizontal branch too. That one goes. I missed some branches on this side. You cannot really copy everything, obviously. When you have this. So you have to wait it dry and then add another layer, a little darker, and then the darkest, the last. Okay. Now I'm doing I think we should do the front tree first. Always, you can use a little bit darker ink. It should just pretty dark here. Make sure it's in the front, I think. I have several of my favorite paintings. I can't find anywhere besides the copy or the prints I have, including this one. I cannot identify it and cannot find any picture books. Another one is by the same by the master Wang Yuanqi. The blog article talked about. I have a copy on a calendar, year calendar I kept. It's a colorful copy, and I have searched all over the world to find another print in some book or collection, but I never find. That's my favorite. I can bring I did a class on that many years ago on a scroll. I can bring that to you. That's my favorite one, which is colored version landscape after Zhang, and that's my favorite. Yeah. If you compare that one to Cézanne, you will find the color so striking. It's different. I mean, similar. There's this split line in the middle of the trunk, really striking. So you can do some dry brush, lost and found, dotted line or something to enhance that. Not repeat exactly, but to reinstate or reinforce it somehow. And that's how much it takes for the root. It's just little dots. Then this part, I see the triangle crossing here. I have to keep some dense and sparse contrast. I think that's very easy to lose, especially when you do this kind. It tends to have all the branches evenly spread. But in this one, you can see the negative space are so contrast. Some big, some small holes. Those holes are more important than the branches you do. So I try to leave the large space between branches. That's very important. So you have some sparse part in the very dense, like here you have like three trees crossing so dense, but next to it you have big space. So at the expense of identifiable trees, you need to be more concerned with this kind of space, negative space or shape. Yeah. Let me just look at the original here. I try to identify this upward strokes, upward branches first. My brush is not pointed. I just use my fingertips instead of my lips to do this. That's what she does with her lips. Not like that. I better demo this. My respect I attribute to my ex. Yeah, that's how you don't really use your tongue. Right. Yeah, that's really handy or mouthful tool to use. Yeah, it's really, really effective. When you have a split head brush, you want to make just the right moisture if you feel with your lips. It's really, I think I can't imagine this brush become so just a little bit sensitive. It becomes much more sensitive when you make love with your brush. That's a good one, right? Not only make friends, you have to kiss your brush to feel it, and it will work for you. Believe me. Yeah. It's not toxic. It's just charcoal. It's really helped. Yeah. I think. You can feel it. I think you can use your fingers and your tissue to make this also. Okay, sometimes before it dries, if it's only like a water, you can use very dry dark brush just to add a little substance to it. You know, if you control this. Okay, here is another branch, and she has a lot of nail head kind of brush strokes, and she also practiced calligraphy, you know, so it's very calligraphic. This is some very girly look pattern. I like that. It's very feminine kind of. I can feel the happiness of this kind of stroke. Little S, you can see like that. These are like sprouts of, it must be early spring. Okay. But you can count the strokes. That means you don't really repeat that much. So every stroke is serves its purpose. This one is behind, so yeah, this one goes. Oh, this one should be front. This is behind. Okay. Oh, you got something.
Yeah.
Nice out. This one looks like a very typical crab leg branch here, and goes two, three, and then another direction. They're not just simply upside down horn branches. There's a kind of Japanese tree in the park you can find. It goes like that, like a umbrella tree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
let me just finish this main tree. That's probably all you can do. So just keep growing this one. I'm not sure if the, oh, actually this is the third tree. I'm not sure, doesn't matter really. You better know, I think the original artist may know, but it becomes more abstract when you just copy the traits, not the substance. I mean the form. So I'm going to do this overlapping thing I talked about. Now it's dry, right? It's dry. So my dark on light will work. I think this saliva, right, really help to form the right, the tip head, also control, you know, the bleeding, everything. So this is the cheapest way of doing this. The ancient, I must have done that. I think she learned from her mother. Her mother is a Qing Dynasty high official descendant, you know. They have this traditional knowledge and collections. Of, you know, art and books, that kind of thing. So this runs in the family. So it's really abstract, not to really care about the individual trees, more about the pattern and the feel of the spring, early spring sprouts. This morning, when I went to feed my hummingbirds, and my wife is practicing Tai Chi and pointing me to see, did you see the jubiji trees sprouts? It looks exactly like that. Yeah. Jubiji trees falling leaves in the autumn and coming back. Yeah. And also we have mulberry in the yard that's heavily loaded with fruits. So they grow so big, it's like 2 flowers tall, but now it's down to the ground. Big curve with all the, you know, fruits on it. So the trees goes tall like this in the winter, and then in the summer when the leaves come, it's falling. So the tree shape changes. Yeah. And you can count every group is 4, following the classic pattern. So that's there are lots of moss dots added to the older chunk. This representing moss lichens, those on old trees, make it more luxuriant. I try to pronounce this. It's so difficult for me to pronounce that. Luxuriant, right? Luxuriant. That's the word I tried to translate to the character Mao. It's the same Mao as Chairman Mao. There's some bare branches near the tree trunk. It's like thorns. I just do a little bit testing. Can't wait, but usually it's done last with this dark. Okay, I'm gonna add another layer to the pepper dots. See how it look like. Okay, I'm going to add a little darker, but not to the last. Just darker than this one. Okay. And you can enhance the trunk. The branches as well. There's stroke just like that. Here's a staghorn shaped branches. Okay, I try to add in the missing branch, but it's kind of difficult. If you missed it, you just forget it, I think. I didn't make the division there at the first, so it's kind of hard to add it back. So again, I try not to overlap, but this layer is darker. And you can subdivide this, into some groups of pepper, 5 each, maybe, or 3. So some dense and some sparse grouping are within this block. Okay. and just make sure the dark near the trunk that it's dark enough, dense enough, but you also have in and outs. So it's not just like a piece on a string, that kind of. So I try not to outline, but just use this to contrast out. If you want, you can reinstate this trunk, but it's light ink so the trunk stays light, as if there's frost on it, maybe. Actually, it's the color of the trunk itself is lighter. This line is too flat. Try to break that a little bit. But when you see, it's not dark enough, don't do it right away to add more. Just wait until it dries. In the historic record, the Master Wang, he used a small iron, like a big scope, with charcoal, burning like a hot charcoal, not fire in it, and then iron it. I have little iron also, just little. I also have the big one for dry mounting, but we don't need it because the weather here, climate is pretty dry. You don't need that for now. But if needed, you can heat set it before you proceed to the next one. Okay, I do see some branches goes crossing this one, so that's very important to identify, to not confuse the layers. So this one goes right above this, right here, right in the front. Let's do that. So this one, but I overstated, but I use the darkest dark already. Okay, just soften the other part. And then, some parts you just omit, that's good. Because if you have the dark all the way, it's stiff, not luxuriant. Luxuriant is against uniform. It's more varieties, yeah, and more lost in the font, kind of. For me, so this word Mao.
Henry?
Yeah.
Ask the question?
Yes.
You have the things you sent last night, the 4 variations of the painting. Can you explain what they are for?
The 4 variations of this I just for fun because I compared Cézanne's painting with Master Wang Yuanqi, no, Master unknown master, or I identified the master copy. So what I did is I think did I share with you the link where you can upload the content as the original, and then you use a style reference to change it to fast stylize. So I stylized it with this one. I think it's with another copy of a colorful copy of Wang Yuanqi as a reference. So it turned out more like the silk painting kind of color. And some of that, you can use any palette. It's like a color palette reference. You can use anything as the reference. It doesn't have to be a landscape even. You can use apple or something. You use the color in that second painting to color it. It blurred the painting, create something like a 3D effect in the eyes of the Western trained AI, AI eyes. Yeah. So it gives us some idea of what color it may look like, or what the AI sees in the style of Wang Yuanqi, or others. So this one is more winter color. I used only I think I used the Qi Baishi's painting, the one I did first class as a reference. You remember that? It's blue sky or some kind of brown color. So I used the Qi Baishi as a style guide on this one. So it becomes, and so when we come to the next step, we have the option, maybe next week or the week after, to color it. So you can just you don't have to color it right now. Yeah. So at first you do monochrome ink. Ink is considered as color if you can distinguish this and this. This is like 1, this is like 8. So it gives the painting color. If you paint only with one tone or value, there's no color, right? So this is a monochrome. It's also a colorful. Yeah, could be colorful. It with different values. Okay, let's just do this one. The little dots. So this become a little bit sparse and smaller compared to the first tree. Just put there. So look at the ins and outs. Try to get the outer shape right. The dance. I try to get rhythm going. Some dance and the sparse. So you do ch-ch-ch-ch-ch. Not just the so there you can hear the sound, so like a music. When you see this, that would be good. Okay, so I have this dense and sparse gradation kind of, and then I have another kind of triangular shapes. When I go too fast, it becomes just overlapped. Oh, we need to leave the white center. It's like I don't know who invented. I have a friend who wrote an article on this, like a cutting half tree style. Probably it's very early in the Song Dynasty. We already have that, but in the Ming Dynasty, it becomes so conventional to do this kind of tree with a white trunk and the dark leaves around it on the sides. It's almost like you cut the tree in half. You understand? That's I don't know if it's good or not. It's just a style they like. But still, in the theory, they're talking about the 4 directions of tree branches. In practice, they just do that to left and right. Yeah. Not in the front, but still a little subtleties indicates. It's not like a lollipop shape, that's for sure. Okay, another tree here, it's this kind of, what do you call this, kind of ren? Yeah. It's a pine tree in the distance kind of approach. So it's, yeah, like a pine tree in the distance. Okay, let's do that. But still, you need to do the trunk first, right? The trunk is in light, dark, light, dry ink. We should have done that all the trunks done first. Okay, here we go. Oops, not dark. Too dark. Yeah, so the dark, light trunk, dark leaves contrast is the style of this painting. We get light and thirsty. The brush tends to split, so you need to shape it with your finger or your lips to do this kind of line work, I think. Especially, it doesn't matter when you dot. Some stroke there. Some strokes just bars, like a forest. Yeah, it still vary a little bit in distance between them. So I just draw an imaginative center with a very light ink. So then I kind of paint the branches left and right. Okay, but still there's a tree in front of that. I already did it in light. So better do it with dark before I do the back layer. And this one is like a short version of this front tree, the same kind of stroke. Very curvy, very soft. Yeah, the bamboo groove, I think that's the horizontal. It could be bamboo or like yeah, those horizontal dots, as we did maybe in other paintings. This is more like a bamboo groove kind of. It's horizontal, but this one is slant. Oh, it goes like in and up. So it goes like this. Yeah. Or you could go both from outside in. Outside in. Yeah. It's like a writing character. It's left and right. Okay. And notice the angle change, and the lens also. There's some arm, some like longer. And try not to lose the pattern of this. The center is dense, kind of hide the trunk. And then that kind of thing. cannot really copy one by one stroke by one stroke. This kind of, you have to understand the pattern. Just use that pattern to reproduce, regrow the tree, to grow your own tree. This is interesting. I think sometimes it's ambiguous. It's in the front or in the back. It could be either way, I think. So this tree could be down there, or perhaps on top. Well, let's make it clear. And that's another pine tree. But this one, theoretically, it's lighter, so it should be behind, I think. It should be, I think I messed up this one with this one. Gosh, I just realized that. Okay, I think I messed up this too. So this one is behind. Yeah. So this one is in the front. I just misread these two lines. So this one is, I see. Okay, here's a branch from this one that goes like a tangent. So it's overlapped with the top trunk. That's why I got misread there. Now I see. Okay. So there's a reason you cannot violate. If you violate, it makes it uncomfortable. So that's natural law, and front and back, and physical law, and also there's design rules you have to follow always. So that's principle of nature and principle of design. Actually, it's the one. If you in turn with nature, they come together naturally. So and that's why you need the concentration. You need the cleansing your mind. The painting itself does that for you. So you cannot think other things while you do this. I mean, if you forget your mundane worries, your daily life, and become in tune with the nature, the season, the weather, also part of the. Okay, here is interesting. Okay, very important is to keep the crown varied, so they're not the same height. They treat it differently. So here is another crown kind of. I don't care which tree it belongs, but the height and the detail, the depths of this are more important. So then I try to identify that it belongs to this one. And you always find, if you make a mistake, you violate all the rules. If you make it correct, it follows all the rules. That's very interesting, Okay, so this one is this tree in the front now. I just want to make it clear. And that one behind, we need to finish with a little bit top. Also, that one goes just like that. Okay, and then you have to wait a little bit. You can add some darks in front of that. If you add right now, it blurs. If the light is wet, so you can go back and forth. Okay, now there's some dense part of this groove on the left of this house. this little forest here. So make sure the trunk has different space between them, and also height very varied. Okay. And easiest for those artists just do some bars on the dashes. You can have a little bit like this, and we will learn all this in the future class. Maybe we can go through all these patterns, the different tree patterns, leaves. I have a private class. If you follow me on YouTube, she has a monthly lesson on the mustard seeds garden. We end up doing that. So page by page, you can follow that lesson. Yeah. And that's a good complement to this class, I think. And in this class, I'm not gonna go to that. We will do master copies. That book, that class, we only copy those elements, not composition. So this class is everything from stroke to process and composition. You learn everything. It's pretty abstract. It's just horizontal and vertical. The vertical comes first, I think. If you be careful, you should leave the vertical white, just like those the split trees. Split trees. So the trunk is white, stays white. I've missed that. Okay, I'll just plot it. Okay, I have to stop. So sorry, I didn't give you enough time, but if you got bored, you can start painting. If this works, we can continue. If let's say, yeah, I just stop here. I just got too much involved with this painting. I forgot about time to give you on your own, but I think the battery is on the other. This one still works. Good. So we're going to end this class here, and the next class we'll finish all, hopefully. So it does take time. Yeah. The actual time doing that is probably a week or at least 3 days. Yeah. Any questions? We have 10 minutes. I can do some partial explanation if you didn't get. So you just get a feel. Some principles of doing this is to start from light to dark, and go dry and slow, accumulate different layers. Yeah, and you can add those shading, but don't wet wash, especially at the end. I think your painting, that's a different style though. If you use this style, when I learned art history, my teacher tell me immediately when he saw my contemporary style too much rely on wash, he says you better correct that by doing some dry brush copy, Asian masters. Before you do the wash. So this really, can help to give your wash more substance, not just air, and more contents in the wash. Yeah. So that's good to know.
Henry, on this side, is this a covered bridge?
Yeah, that's an unfinished construction. I don't really know. I tried to identify it. I could do research on that. That's my question too. Yeah. It's a covered bridge. Yeah.
And then this is water. Then.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. And these are trees.
Yeah.
Are these?
These are these are bamboo forests or
It's bamboo, so
yeah,
it
yeah,
could be
yeah,
level.
yeah,
You
yeah,
don't have
yeah.
to vary the height.
The height is varied, I think.
Yeah,
The
I
height,
mean, it's kind of,
a little bit, yeah, it's horizontal plus vertical, that's typically bamboo. Usually bamboo around the house is what
Yeah.
we really grow that way. You can vary a little bit, also vary the distance between the bars. Yeah, I think it's very abstract, so you don't really need to identify
yeah,
exactly, but you better know before you make a mistake, because if you do bamboo, there are some
yeah,
rules. If you
Right.
yeah, if you make it crossing, then it's not a bamboo. Bamboo is more horizontal lines. So yeah, I think you can start just practicing the tree individually before you do the whole thing. Maybe before next class. Yeah.
I was thinking about doing studies of each, like.
Yeah.
Like just the trees.
Oh,
just
yeah,
the-
rock or something like
Yeah.
that. It will
What kind
help.
of paper?
Oh, good question. I have this. I'm using the semi-sized paper. It gives you a little more sense of mao because it gives more fuzzy edge, kind of like a not so smooth edge, believe it. This paper she uses the bamboo paper. I think we did one with the bamboo paper before.
uh-huh.
Yeah, the brown paper that you can use. Yeah.
So would a P would be the semi-size?
P is P also works. Yeah, I just use semi-sized shuan. It's a little bit finer for details. P is a little bit rough
Yeah.
on some of the
So
details.
that's single shot?
Single shuan is fine. This is single
这个
shuan.
可以吗？
这个可以，但是就是会 bleed 比较多。
I have, yeah.
It's a raw shuan. Yeah, raw shuan. You can use more control. If you control the brush with your lips, you can do any paper.
So that it's not, the ink would not be toxic?
No, you don't swallow anything. Just you can just clean it. Do I?
It's just pine, it's pine sap, isn't it? And the blue, black.
Can I use this paper for this? 我可以用这个吗？用这个吗？
这个可能会比较
会硬啊
硬，
硬
对，你可以试一下不同的，对。那我先把这个关了吗？Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye bye.